Good evening, my fellow survivors of the dumbest timeline. I'm Ethan Blake, and if you're here, that means you're ready to laugh through the madness, or at least scream into the void with style. Tonight, we take a look at another train wreck dressed in a three-piece suit. Another press conference that could double as a stand-up comedy, and yes, another story so dumb it might just be true. Buckle up, because the truth doesn't need makeup when you've got sarcasm this sharp. And trust me, I brought extra fuel for the fire.
Those are just lowly House Democrats. How will the head of their party, the outgoing president, man the ramparts during this challenging and fraught, peaceful transition to fascism?
President Biden is in Brazil, where he became the first American head of state to visit the Amazon rainforest. He went there to highlight the dangers of climate change and the need to turn away from fossil fuels.
What the
And we're proud of the fact that we've defeated more House Republican incumbents than they've defeated House Democratic incumbents.
We did flip 3 House seats from Republican to Democrat and gained back almost all of those that we had lost in 2022.
Yeah, almost is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Jon Stewart isn't backing down from MSNBC. He's going straight for the throat. He's doubling down on his scathing attack against the network's constant hypocrisy and endless stream of lies. This time, he ripped into them for their shameless smear campaign against Donald Trump. And it was absolute fireworks from beginning to end. If you enjoy this kind of raw, no-holds-barred truth-telling, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that doesn't hold back and tells it exactly like it is.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Republicans are playing chess and the Democrats are in the nurse's office because they glued their balls to their thigh. The election that we just had was a repudiation of the status quo, an overly regulated system that is no longer responsive or delivering for the needs of the people or their beloved beheaded squirrels. Oh, R.I.P. Peanut.
Before Jon Stewart unleashed his flamethrower on MSNBC, he carefully set the stage. For years, the network, like much of the mainstream media, coddled the Democratic Party, refusing to challenge its policies, confront its failures, or demand accountability. This created a dangerous echo chamber where dissent was stifled and honest dialogue vanished. Under the Biden administration, that silence became deafening. Fear ruled the party, fear of backlash, fear of speaking out, fear of stepping out of line. Meanwhile, the Republican Party, free from the grip of legacy media, refined its message, sharpened its strategy, and operated with ruthless discipline. While Democrats tiptoed around feelings and avoided controversy, the GOP focused on winning, and win they did. Come election time, their preparation paid off in a big way. That's the harsh reality Jon Stewart was calling out, exposing how one party's obsession with safe spaces cost them the battlefield of public opinion and, ultimately, the ballot box.
Republicans exploit the loopholes. Democrats complain about the norms over and over and over, and it has ghastly consequences. Remember when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court? Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused to give that a vote, saying, well, it's only one full year before the election, it's too close. Now, you could make a case that Obama could violate the norm, say the Senate failed their advice and consent, and appoint him anyway, and see whatever happens. Fight.
The Democrats were clearly playing it far too safe, tiptoeing around tough issues, afraid to disrupt the status quo or take any meaningful risks. They seem more concerned about not hurting anyone's feelings than actually standing for something. That's precisely why their candidate, Kamala Harris, ended up representing, well, almost nothing. In stark contrast, the Republicans charged forward without hesitation. They took bold, unapologetic stances on controversial topics like gender, religion, politics, and the economy, making their positions unmistakably clear. Even more strategically, they bypassed traditional media by building massive grassroots movements, seizing control of the narrative, and flipping key districts in local elections. While Democrats tried to appease everyone, Republicans stayed focused and aggressive. Paralyzed by fear and obsessed with being agreeable, The Democrats simply lacked the courage and firepower to fight back with equal intensity. When all was said and done, they paid the price. They didn't just lose votes, they lost momentum, credibility, and control.
Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. And for those asking why we would go speak to the President-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because you said he was Hitler.
While Republicans were meticulously crafting smart, calculated strategies like zeroing in on suburban voters through focused grassroots campaigns and door-to-door outreach, the Democrats seemed stuck with one overused tactic: paint Donald Trump as the ultimate villain. They genuinely believed that demonizing Trump would be enough to sway public opinion and deliver Kamala Harris an easy path to victory. In their minds, relentless negative coverage and fear-driven messaging would terrify voters into compliance. But reality had other plans. Rather than alienate Trump, their obsession with attacking him only made him appear more relatable to voters already fed up with political elites. The non-stop smears came off as desperate and disconnected, pushing moderates and independents further into the Republican camp. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, lacking a clear platform or a message that truly resonated, failed to ignite excitement among her own supporters. In the end, the Democrats' one-dimensional approach didn't just fail, it imploded. Their strategy revealed a deeper vulnerability, one that not only weakened their position, but handed Republicans the momentum they needed to secure a decisive win.
We've had a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets.
Oh, I bet you really laid down the gauntlet, Joe. I bet you walked in there and just let him have it, didn't you, Joey? We've learned nothing! Even those putting up resistance to Trump's agenda don't seem to understand who they're dealing with.
The hypocrisy that Jon Stewart is calling out couldn't be more obvious. You can't go on live television and label Donald Trump a fascist, a racist, or even compare him to Hitler, then casually share dinner and laugh with him like longtime friends. Yet, that's exactly what we've seen from media personalities like Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. For years, they flooded the airwaves with breathless warnings about Trump being a dire threat to democracy. But when the cameras stopped rolling and the political winds shifted, they cozied up to him without hesitation. It was never truly about standing on principle. It was about ratings, access, and preserving their influence in elite circles. And the American people saw right through it. That's the two-faced game Stewart is working to expose. The same voices stoking the flames of outrage by day are often the ones profiting from the very chaos they claim to condemn once the lights go off. It's performative politics at its worst, and he's not letting it slide.
You can't go against the will of the voters. Democrats who voted in all 50 states in the primary, that is who they want to be their nominee.
He's the nominee because millions and millions of people voted for him to be our nominee, and he will be our nominee. End of story.
There was no real primary. Biden ran against Dean Phillips. That's not even a real person. That's a stock photo on the package for a garden hose. It's not a person. AI.
Imagine if Republicans had tried to force Donald Trump onto their party without a legitimate primary process. MSNBC would have exploded with outrage. They'd fill their broadcast with scandal, condemnation, and breathless headlines warning of democracy's collapse. The coverage would be relentless, painting it as a constitutional crisis. But when their beloved Democratic Party pulled off the same backroom maneuvering, silence. Suddenly, the so-called watchdogs of democracy turned into obedient lapdogs. And on the rare occasion they did address it, it was only to defend the Democrats, spinning absurd excuses and shielding them from accountability. They bent over backward to justify what was clearly indefensible, making arguments so flimsy they would fall apart under the slightest scrutiny. Jon Stewart wasn't just highlighting hypocrisy, he was blowing the whistle on a blatant media betrayal. One that more and more Americans were already seeing for themselves. The illusion was breaking, and Stewart made sure no one could look away from the double standards anymore.
And we're proud of the fact that we've defeated more House Republican incumbents than they've defeated House Democratic incumbents.
We did flip 3 House seats from Republican to Democrat and gain back almost all of those that we had lost in 2022.
Yeah, almost is doing a lot of work in that sense.
It's almost comical watching the Democrats cling to cherry-picked statistics in a desperate attempt to comfort themselves after one of the most devastating political losses in recent memory. They proudly tout minor gains, flipping a few seats here, gaining a percentage point there, as if that somehow offsets the bigger picture. But none of it matters if you lose the ultimate prize, the presidency. You can collect all the scraps you want, but if you can't secure the Oval Office, it's all meaningless. That's the harsh truth they refuse to confront. Real victory isn't measured by moral consolation prizes, symbolic wins, or talking points. It's measured by results. It's about strength, decisive leadership, and the ability to unite an entire nation, not just earn applause from media elites. The American public isn't fooled by spin games. They want action, not excuses. So, instead of flooding the airwaves with hollow narratives, manipulated data, and performative celebration over irrelevant stats, maybe it's time they accepted the reality. They lost. No clever tweet, no desperate headline, no 11th hour messaging twist will change the outcome. The scoreboard doesn't lie. And right now, it's flashing a brutal, unmistakable truth they can't spin their way out of.
Just lowly House Democrats. How will the head of their party, the outgoing president, man the ramparts during this challenging and fraught, peaceful transition to fascism?
President Biden is in Brazil, where he became the first American head of state to visit the Amazon rainforest. He went there to highlight the dangers of climate change and the need to turn away from fossil fuels.
What the
Don't mistake this for a sketch on SNL. Unfortunately, it's real. Joe Biden actually flew all the way to the Amazon rainforest to deliver a lecture on reducing fossil fuel usage to communities where many people might not even know what a fossil is. It raises a serious question. Who is advising him, and do they understand anything about optics or strategy? Climate change is a real crisis that demands concrete solutions, bold policies, strict enforcement, and genuine innovation. But instead, we're handed empty, performative gestures designed to look good in photographs while accomplishing absolutely nothing on the ground. Standing in the jungle with a microphone doesn't lower carbon emissions. It doesn't invest in clean energy. It doesn't reform policy. Even the symbolism, the speeches, and the setting felt tone deaf and disconnected from reality. True leadership isn't about chasing headlines or curating Instagrammable moments. It's about making difficult, impactful decisions. Biden's rainforest appearance wasn't a solution. It was political theater, plain and simple. And sadly, when it comes to climate policy, this administration seems more invested in appearances than in outcomes. The planet doesn't have time for this kind of ineffectiveness.
Former President Donald Trump shared a video, this one, on his Truth Social account featuring an image of President Joe Biden hogtied on the back of a pickup truck.
That's what was so disturbing and dehumanizing. You wouldn't show it on television, and an airbrushed Biden decal on the back of a truck?
At this point, it's painfully obvious that MSNBC and the Democrats have completely lost their way. Months after suffering a crushing election defeat, they still show no signs of recovery or direction. Rather than regroup with bold ideas or a coherent strategy, they remain stuck in their own echo chamber, repeating the same worn-out slogans and empty talking points that helped lead to their downfall. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is surging ahead, setting the tone for the future of American politics with confidence and clarity, while they fumble in search of a meaningful counterattack. There's no strong leadership, no unified message, no spark of real momentum, just noise, blame, and internal bickering. The longer they remain paralyzed by delusion, the more they clear the path for Trump to retake center stage without resistance. Reality is knocking loudly, but they're too busy pointing fingers and spinning narratives to hear it. If they don't snap out of this downward spiral soon, they won't just lose another election. They'll lose what little credibility remains. And once that's gone, it's not just about politics anymore. It's about total irrelevance.
Libertarianism and Donald Trump aren't the only threats our democracy faces. An arthritic status quo, unable or unwilling to respond in any way to the concerns of voters who just received new and urgent information about their candidate, also erodes confidence and faith in the system of government.
Unfortunately for MSNBC, their ratings have been in a steady freefall since last year, and the decline shows no signs of slowing. Month after month, the numbers continue to slide, reflecting a growing disconnect between the network and the audience it once relied on. Viewers are tuning out, fed up with relentless bias, diminishing professionalism, and the total abandonment of journalistic integrity. Where credibility and fairness once defined respected news outlets, MSNBC now appears more interested in promoting partisan narratives than delivering factual reporting. If they don't make a serious and immediate course correction, they're headed straight toward irrelevance. If this spiral continues, marked by political spin and selective outrage, it's not far-fetched to imagine MSNBC collapsing entirely. The public is demanding something different. Real journalism that's honest, balanced, and free of political theater. And those who refuse to evolve will be left behind, relics of a media era that valued agenda over truth. That wraps up today's video. If you appreciated this breakdown, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more unfiltered commentary and hard-hitting analysis you won't find anywhere else.